Garrett, I just have to start out by saying that I wish that I had come into your world about a year ago when my son was born. So I'm just beyond thrilled to be able to be having this conversation with you for one, but also to be able to introduce you to so many incredible women that are either new moms, future moms, or returning moms. So for those people that haven't heard of you, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your company, kozekoze.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Garrett. I'm the founder of kozekoze. I'm a mom. I always knew that I wanted to be a mom. And I also always knew that I would do something in business. I never planned on starting a postpartum personal hygiene products company. It's something that found me based on the pain points I had during postpartum. I will say that in my background as a solopreneur and a coach, I had this very bizarre experience where so many women would work with me and get pregnant that they all started calling me the baby whisperer. So that was kind of my first clue. But then I got pregnant first try. And I can get into kind of my postpartum journey in a little bit. But what I never expected was that once I started this company, kozekoze, that I would find myself on an unexpected infertility journey. I thought I would pop out like 4 babies in a row and be my best own influencer for the company. And I hit over the 1.5 year mark of infertility when we launched our first product. So it's been kind of a whirlwind. But I feel like I've been able to turn my, pain into purpose and better relate to our customer because I had been complaining about my postpartum journey for so long. And now I would give anything to be back in the newborn struggle, Freudian slip there, phase of life, because now I understand that is, as hard as it is, like there are people dreaming about it and praying about it every night. And so it's really been a crazy journey, but I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you here too. And I really like what you said about that this found you. I think that sometimes the best thing are born because they've almost fallen into your lap, but not really, because you had to be aware of it in order to have it like actually be born, I guess, like in the whole spirit of babies and things like that, to literally be born.
Yeah.
But you said that this wasn't your first entrepreneurial endeavor, that you had also done stuff before, like coaching. So tell us a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey, like how that began. And then we can obviously weave our way into kozekoze.
Yes. And remind me what you said about the parallel of being born. I believe that, business and birth are incredibly paralleled. But entrepreneurially, I always worked. I wouldn't say that's entrepreneurial, but as soon as I could get a job, I had a job. And I joked that my first day of my corporate sales job out of college, I actually formed an LLC the first day of work on my lunch break because I wanted to teach workout classes. I'm a huge fitness fanatic. I taught Barry's Bootcamp for 7 years. But when I was 22, I wanted to teach, and I had found a gym in Chicago that was a TRX gym. And when I walked in, this guy, I think he was testing me because he could tell I was young. And he said, if you want to work here, you need to get certified in our style of kettlebell training, and you got to form an LLC so that it's a real business and it's all wrapped up. And I left there being like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. And so by the end of that week, my first week of my real quote job, I had an LLC called GFit TRX or something. And I started teaching fitness classes in the park. I taught classes out of their gym. And I started working for a company very similar to Barry's Bootcamp, but started by 2 women in Chicago called Shred 415. So thus began my journey of making money on my own through other studios and my own LLC, but also having a corporate job. I then was picked up on accident by a real estate company that moved me to Boston. As soon as I got there, I started a different business, a coaching business. I was an online coach before online coaching was real. People were like, how do we do this? It was all email and phone and video. That was 2014. I did real estate on and off until 2019. But from 2014 to 2019, I wrote and published a book that's on Amazon about that journey with the company that moved me there. It was kind of a crazy story. They basically let me name my salary as a 23-year-old, put me up in a penthouse apartment in Boston. It seemed a little too good to be true. And as soon as they closed a deal with my dad, they fired me. Crazy story. Of course, I had to write about it. And it's a lot of like Sex in the City. And I dated 50 different people. It's a beach read. And so I had the coaching business the whole time. And in 2019, I went full into coaching, thinking I would do that the rest of my life. And now I'm here. So that's the Cliff Notes long maybe long version.
Well, it sounds like you've always had that entrepreneurial itch in you. It sounds like you've always, like, you even started in sales. And I would say that even though you were working with a corporation, you come from sales as well, and you own your book of business. So in a way, you own your own business within another company because you're really responsible for the income that you generate. So in other ways, you have always been an entrepreneur, it sounds like.
Yes. And real estate is very similar. It's a kind of a grim saying, but you eat what you kill, right? It's you're working on your time. And I love it, hate it. I don't know if your listeners or you are familiar with the Enneagram, but I'm a 7. And so I need freedom. And I think that freedom and entrepreneurship come hand in hand, which is amazing. It's just, for some people, it's a really big responsibility to hold yourself to task and to achieve what you want to achieve.
It is, but for something like kozekoze that you've created, it's so mission driven. And I think that even though freedom, it's a big word because like with freedom comes a lot of responsibility. But when you have such a strong mission, that responsibility, even though it's so great, is worth it. And I'm sure it makes you just like lit up every single day, knowing that you're helping so many women in their pre and postpartum journeys.
Yeah. And I used to talk to a lot of the entrepreneurs. So my online coaching business kind of it went from fitness and fat loss to like self-help and growth and then entrepreneurial coaching. And I would always say, you have to actually be excited to get out of bed. And I can't do anything if I'm not excited about it, which is maybe also a blessing and a curse, but there's not a day, to your point, that I'm not like, oh, I can't wait to have that call. I can't wait to see what happens with this email. It's not like, oh, I have to do this thing. It's like, ooh, this is exciting. What's going to happen? Obviously, as a mom, you're trading some of your time with your child, which makes it really hard. But one of the really unique things about kozekoze is that we're all moms. And none of us are full-time. None of us are 9-to-5ers because we really want to protect the sacred time of being with our babies. And so we just have to get really creative about how we do that.
Well, that's a whole nother podcast in itself. And for those people that are listening to this and really wanting more, you also have your own podcast where I'm sure you're talking a lot about these topics in general, about what it's like to be a mom, because you've had, I think I looked right before the show, 378 episodes as of our record date today. So you're definitely having these conversations every single day, and you know what it's like to be a mom today. And as a relatively new mom myself, I personally know how I wouldn't say difficult, but how you have to really reprioritize things and really be intentional with your time when you become a mom. So as an entrepreneur, when you're building your business, like when you don't have a child, it looks a little bit different than when a child is introduced into the mix. So I was talking with another podcast guest earlier today, and the word that we used was intentional. And I think that would probably really resonate with a lot of people in your world as well.
Yeah, I would say I went hard in my 20s and pre-baby because I would teach the 5 a.m. workout class. So then I could work out at 6, maybe teach at 7, be working by 9. I was nonstop. Like it was just a lot. And so in a lot of ways, having a son has made me reprioritize what actually matters and what is just extra fluff that I'm doing just because I'm on an old cycle or an old pattern of proving, and I had to work through a lot of that. And it's also much more grounding because I get outside with him in the morning, or I get outside with him in the afternoon, or I'm playing literally on the ground with him. So in a lot of ways, he brings me back down to earth. It makes you feel into what's real and what's not. And it just gives a much better perspective on things, for sure.
And I've heard it as when you're building a business, a lot of the coaches that I've spoken to, it's important to build a business that works for you rather than a business that you're working for. And I thought that just really resonated with me, especially in new motherhood, because my time is limited and I do want to go to the park with my son. So if I could be able to figure out how to generate money and income while I'm going to the park with my son, like that is just a joy, and to be able to make an impact at the same time, which is what you're doing. But I do want to talk about kozekoze because the story behind this company is like, when I was approached by your team, I was like, I have to have this girl on the show because it is so important. And it's things that I was not made aware of prior to having a child of my own. No one talks about this stuff, but we need to be because we all go through it. So Tell us a little bit more about kozekoze, long story short.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to. It's again, like I said, nothing I ever planned on doing. It wasn't I used to get really stressed out by like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? Because you just really don't know where life's going to take you. And I believe in like, being inspired in those moments. But the long story short is that I had a really uneventful pregnancy, but it led into a really traumatic birth. I had a 4-day birth, went to the hospital on Monday. He wasn't born until Thursday. We had every intervention that you could have. I got an infection. They didn't tell me about the infection. It was very, very traumatic. Luckily, not only was he healthy when he came out, I somehow still had a vaginal birth. And I actually got to experience the fetal ejection reflex, which is a whole other podcast. So interesting. But your body basically
I've heard of it.
For you. You haven't? Well, I'll give you guys just a quick, basically, if you've ever watched an animal give birth in nature, it almost looks like their body's just doing it. And the fetal ejection reflex is where you are basically just a vessel and your body starts pushing the baby out. And the reason I knew the difference is because I had pushed for 4.5 hours and all of a sudden I kept feeling like I was going to throw up. And I've heard many people describe it this way. When you start to feel like you're going to throw up, instead of you actually vomiting, your body bears down.
Wow.
And I just told the nurses, I'm like, I'm done. I had tapped out. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. And then my body just did it. And he just came out and like, I think it was like maybe 5 to 8 of those waves. And I didn't know what it was, but I opened Instagram after his birth and it was like fetal ejection reflex. I was like, I just had that. That just happened to me. It was just a whirlwind of an experience. Didn't sleep for 4 days, which is not okay for your brain. And then they're like, take this baby home and take care of this baby. And what happened to me / for me is that I went from a not memorable B cup to probably a double. My double E bra was too tight. So it's probably somewhere G or H size bra. And I was leaking everywhere. And so if you Google what to do with leaking breasts and you're not trying to collect any extra milk from your haka, I had already done that. I didn't need to collect anymore. It says put pads in your bra. I'm like, well, my bra is too tight. So I tried on a cami. I also had cracked, bleeding raw nipples and I needed to put someplace to put like a jelly pad. But I didn't, my cami literally left a red mark indentation on me when I woke up in the morning. So I'm like, I'm back to what I normally like to sleep in, which are my husband's t-shirts, but they're soaked in milk. My bed is soaked. I cannot wash my sheets every day. And literally on Google, it said sleep on a towel. And so I'm in 2021 sleeping on a towel. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like we're not in the dark ages. So I'm changing diaper after diaper after diaper. And I'm like, God, I wish I had a diaper for my boobs. Like, why can't I just wear something that's cozy and dry and hygienic? Because it would just make me happier. I mean, my husband jokes that we probably still have milk droplets somewhere trailed around our house because I was just wearing sweatshirts or t-shirts and dripping milk everywhere. It was nonstop. And so I was like, God, I wish I had a diaper for my boobs. And I just sat on the idea. And when my son turned 18 months, I was on a bachelorette trip with my friends. I was like, guys, what do you think about this idea? And one of my friends was like, well, it has to have a cool name. And I'm like, I really want to call it the nipple diaper. They're like, that's weird. And I'm like, but people have to know what it is doing because it's not a regular bra. Like we'll say it's an absorbent disposable bra, but it's not designed to lift, shape, and smooth. It's just designed to keep you dry and cozy so that you can sleep overnight or walk around the house without a real bra. And so we were doing this brainstorming stress session under a full moon. And at that moment, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. And so I called my mom because she had done medical sales for 25 years and my college roommate because she and I ran the sorority together and she like just always handled everything. Like any problem, she was on it. I was like, that's who I want. And I had known for a while she didn't love her job. So called her and we thought we'd launch by summer of 2023. What we didn't know is that product development takes a long time. So we will be launching this November when we are just over 2 years of being a company. And in the meantime, we've come up with a couple other products. So it's been a journey.
Well, it's a journey that I'm so glad that you went on because like I said, recently I've gone through that myself and there is no other feeling like being completely engorged and being so uncomfortable, but you still needing to wear that bra. So I completely resonate. I can't say that I had the leakage issue because I had the exact opposite problem where I wasn't producing enough. But I actually, throughout my entire my postpartum experience, I would get blocks all the time because my bras were just so uncomfortable and too tight, even though like you, I was a B, which Now that's a whole nother story. We're down to an A these days. But that's a whole nother topic. But the bras that you buy, no one prepares you to get a couple sizes bigger.
And it's an investment too. We always talk about how this will create lag time for people for those first, maybe it's only 1 week, maybe it's 3 weeks, maybe it's 10 weeks where you don't want to buy, I didn't want to buy a triple XL, whatever bra I was going to be wearing for a short amount of time. And even if I did spend $60 on it, I'm going to have to wash it, because if you are using like a balm, or maybe you're trying to wean and you're using cabbage extract, like that stains, breast milk stains. So it's like, you may need a couple, but now you're only going to use them for a few months. So it's it creates a little bit of space for you to not have to go bra shop. Also, like bra shopping and jean shopping, no one ever wants to do it anyway, let alone when you're postpartum.
No, definitely not. And I just can't get over the fact that the number one recommendation was to just put a towel on your bed. Like, I don't know I don't sleep in one spot throughout the entire night. I am all over the place. And once that baby was out, I was back to rolling everywhere once I could too. So like staying in one spot, that towel's not staying there. And then you don't get a good quality sleep for the couple hour stretches that you can get anyways.
Yeah.
So like when you're sleeping, you need every ounce of sleep that you can get to be able to provide that energy to your little newborn. So I think this is beyond amazing. So you said that when you called up your mom, you called up your best friend from the sorority, and obviously they went all in, but then it took you longer than you expected to be able to actually bring this product to conception, to be able to launch it. So can we talk about the process of what that looked like, from the idea from when you were sitting with the girlfriends under the full moon to tell me about when we're about to launch in November?
Yeah, it was, sorry, I just was having a coughing attack. It was such a whirlwind, because not only did we not know what we were doing, we were working with a company out of Austin, Texas, that helps you from idea conception through manufacturing. And while they're great, they were also a startup. And we went through 5 or 6 different employees within their company. And we tried to leave our manufacturer at one point because we were just like not sure if they were it. And then we went to another developer and found out that they couldn't solve the problem. And we had a team of 10 engineers that invent medical devices that could not come up with a better solution than what our factory in India had come up with. And then they did additional testing on it and got really good results. And we were like, okay, this is meant to be. And we know this. Like, we know this. We've looked elsewhere. We feel really good about it. But what's really cool is along the way, a fitness video I had made on YouTube at some random point in my fitness journey. It's old. I don't even know why it's still on the internet. This young girl who went to Miami of Ohio, which is where I went, which is where my mom went, which is where my obviously college roommate went. She's like, hey, I found you on LinkedIn because I watched this YouTube video of yours and I went to Miami. Fun fact, I want some mentorship around fitness stuff. And I looked at her skill set that she had like put on, and I was like, I was like, yeah, that's great. We'll hop on a call. I have something else I want to talk to you about. And she's like, I knew you. And she ended up building our whole website. She is our graphic designer. She's like our go-to tech person. And she's 10 years younger than me. But it's just funny how the universe brought her into our space. And then the woman who I met at in a business class at Miami, she helped me start my podcast in 2018. She went through this crazy journey of having a stillbirth, and she came on the podcast to share her story. And after the podcast, she was just like, I want to help you. I am coming. I have to be involved in what you're doing. And I was like, okay, let's make it work. And she was helping us for free. And then everyone was making like a small hourly payment. And then starting this October, she'll be full-time with us. So it's just been like a really cool journey to just having the team be built really serendipitously, but thoughtfully and intentionally. And just to have everyone randomly from the same school. We're really not elitist in any way. We just happen to all have gone there. And so it's been a really cool journey.
And it sounds like you're very tapped into and in tune with like the universe, or whatever you want to call it. And like you went and you did the activity under the moon with your girlfriends, and like you just happened to, like when the girl reached out to you, you also realized that she had a specific skill set that could help you. It just, things come to you when you attract it. And it sounds like you're just a magnet, but you're not just a magnet, you're very in tune with it as well. So it's one thing to be able to attract it, but then there's another thing to actually take that and run with it. And it sounds like that's what you're really good at. It's like, okay, I can attract it, but now let's do something with it.
Yeah, I would say, so this is just like a fun aside that maybe will help some of your listeners, but I was always like looking for signs in my life. I was always kind of attuned to like a higher purpose. I've had rock bottoms. I've experienced a lot where you've had to get really clear on like, what is the point of all of this? But in 2019, I had an inkling to leave my commercial real estate job, and it was all in retail and fitness and restaurant. So this is pre-pandemic, which it was kind of a brilliant download because that entire pipeline was frozen for a year with what happened with the pandemic. But at the same time, I hired a business coach, my first ever, who I knew from my ex-boyfriend, who's all in my book. And she used to work for billionaires. She's personally been to Necker Island. She knows Elon Musk. I mean, she is the coolest, right? And it was the biggest investment I'd ever made. Every single thing she took me through was about like the universal laws of energy, about quantum physics. It had nothing to do with the business plan. And in fact, I didn't even have the idea for the business yet. I hadn't had my son yet, but it was all about looking into what is quantum physics? How does manifestation work? How do you create the life that you want? I read Becoming Supernatural and Happy Pocketful of Money and all these great books. And then that drew me to a different spiritual teacher who I've now worked with for 4 years. And she's the one who helped me tap into what is kozekoze. And it was all downloaded in like a session. And it was just like all based in oxytocin.
Oh, that's so good. A lot of the conversations I have with guests are around masculine versus feminine energy. And we live in a very masculine society where it's all about doing. And I think what you were really good at and what you were learning from this spiritual teacher is how to be a little bit. And sometimes when we take a step back and we just get really in tune with ourselves and tap into that feminine energy, can't get my words out today, then it all just starts to make sense. And obviously, I do think we need a combination of the two, but you can't just always be in the masculine energy. I believe if you really want to be able to create something that is like truly meaningful to you.
Yes, I have probably 10 different episodes on masculine versus feminine in business, in birth, in marriage. It's such a big thing. And what's really fascinating, or what has been really fascinating for me over the last 2 years, is that I had to undo it all, right? Undo all the doing into being. However, there has to be doing when you start a business. But it is the balance, obviously, like you can channel it, you can tune into it, you can meditate on it, whatever words you want to use. But there is this level, and the way that my coach kind of helped me make the distinction is it's not so much masculine, feminine as it is knowing when you're in like the 3D world versus the 5D. And so that's sort of the way that I differentiate it, because the 3D is like, I have to send the email, I have to go to the meeting, I have to ship and mail the samples, which is masculine too. But making sure that you're not in the story all the time and that you're actually kind of on the sidelines watching the movie that you're in and getting that perspective on it. And then able to, so the way that so many different people have said this to me, but you're not just the player on the field. Like the player on the field is the one mailing the samples to somebody, right? But you're also not the person videoing it. You're like writing the play, videoing the play, and being the actor on the stage all at the same time. But having those different stages of where you're projecting from is really important for many reasons. But it's very helpful for me.
Well, and you alluded to saying like, I have to do something, like I have to write that email, instead of like potentially like I get to write that email. Because sometimes it's also about like how we think about things. And it also reminds me, earlier you said something that is in line with that too. You said it happened for me, not to me. And that is very much in the same line. I think it's always about how you think about things. Like your brain is such a powerful organ in our body that like if we have negative thoughts, then we're going to go down a negative spiral. And this isn't going to be the successful thing that you know it can be. So it's like tapping into that 5D like you're talking about, which I'd actually never heard about that before. So now I'm going to have to go down the whole rabbit hole of research and learn a little bit more about that. But I think that's really beautiful how you put that.
Yeah, thank you. It's all the way that it also kind of feels sometimes is I learned a lot of these lessons of it's happening for me, not to me. I could look in past things in my life. Oh, that company moved me to Boston because then I met my husband. And there's all these great things, but every new challenge you take, it's like a new level of the video game. And you're like, oh my God, I'm learning the same exact lesson. This is the same thing. And that was me in 2023 in a lot of ways in my business. Like I had to like re-scaffold a lot of those things. It felt like, you think you're a really good skier out east and then you go out west and you're like, oh, the double black diamonds are a little different here. They actually might kill me. You have to then like finesse your turns a little differently. So that's kind of what this journey has been like over the last 2 years.
But it's so worth it. And going back to kozekoze, the name is super cute. And I happen to find out why you named it kozekoze. But for those people that are listening that have no idea, tell us a little bit more about the name because it's very special.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, we believe that the bliss exists in motherhood, and the newborn snuggle, that precious bubble of space that you're in postpartum, it can be really, truly blissful when you're able to access oxytocin and be cozy and be comfortable. Obviously, sleeping on a towel while you're bleeding out vaginally with raw tape, that's really not it, right? So if you have the right products and you can actually tap into that bliss and be cozy and comfortable, like that's the essence of what we want to communicate. But the name just came to me because my son, every time he'd get tired or be snuggly for his nap or just like kind of nestle into me, I'd always say, cozy, cozy, you're so cozy, cozy. I'd always say it twice and he'd do this little wiggle. And then I was just like, oh, duh, that's the name, cozy, cozy. Like this is the essence of what we're trying to help women feel. And it just was so clear.
And it should be a cozy experience. Like having that newborn in your arms is such a wonderful feeling. And our bodies are going through massive changes. I joked about how that was my first matching outfit with my son, was we were both in diapers at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's a very humbling experience as well, but we deserve to feel cozy in that experience because we're not feeling all that great and comfortable, but we deserve to be able to have the most comfortable situation as we can. And you also not only have the nipple diaper, but you also have a couple other products too, right?
Yes. So when we kind of started to put 2 and 2 together, knowing that this bra, this nipple diaper was not going to be done very quickly, we're like, I wonder if we could get something out sooner and use that as a Trojan horse. And I'm like, but I don't want to do something just to do it. It needs to be, because our 3 pillars are innovation, it needs to be mess-free, hygienic, and then sustainable. We're like, well, what can we sustainably package and source that makes a difference? It's innovative. I'm like, you know what? When I would have loved to have a nipple diaper is also when my nipples were raw and bleeding and cracked. And I had made the mistake of, for the first time ever, I got dip nails right before I gave birth. I'd never had them, and I didn't realize that unlike gel that you can pick off or you can clip, you really can't take the dip off, which is great because it lasts like a very long time, but you're stuck. So I had these long dip nails when I was postpartum, and I was dunking my finger in the nipple balm jar and getting the balm stuck under my nails all the time. And it would annoy me. So I'd be like wiping it on a burp cloth because you're in bed. And I was like, well, what if we just had like a really beautiful delivery system for the nipple balm so it could come out of a tube? That'd be so much nicer. But it has to have great ingredients, and the tube has to have some sustainable component. That's going to be hard. And we just lucked out that we found this amazing husband and wife team out of California that helped us source and create it all in like a sustainable tube, sustainable packaging, and an amazing organic lab that we could work with. And the rest is history. So Nip Gloss is not only amazing for the reasons I just explained, but it opens with one hand. Because you do everything with one hand. So you can literally, like while you're holding the baby, open the cap, put the cap down, and then glide it on really nice and smoothly. And we're really excited about that product. And it's really been a great way for us to get our name out there. And it embodies our pillars as a company and our mission and making life easier and mess-free for moms. And then as I found myself accidentally on this fertility journey, we always knew that we would be perinatal products. So the entire perinatal journey is fertility through postpartum, but we were going to start at postpartum and work backwards. And unfortunately, I end up on this 2-year fertility journey, and it's over here. My husband invented a pee cup for me, made out of a red Solo cup, because I was testing for LH starting on cycle day 10 to make sure I caught it, but I wasn't ovulating till day like 20 sometimes. So 10 days of peeing, then trying to test early for pregnancy to make sure I caught an early pregnancy, but just in case I was like getting pregnant but not staying pregnant. I was peeing at least 13 days a month in a red Solo cup that he made, jimmied together. And we're like, let's just make this and sell it. And and we got some interest on TikTok. So we started doing a pre-sale a little ahead of time, and this will be launching in October.
Genius. The world needs more of this because I have learned throughout this journey how frequent infertility is within the country in particular, which I had no idea until I entered this stage myself. So to be able to, again, make everything more cozy for women throughout this entire experience is just so beautiful. And you have done more than just create these products for the women. You've also created this wonderful community to be able to connect them both in person, online, through the podcast. You have a blog. So tell us a little bit more about the community too, because I think that's just also such a great resource that these women really need at this stage in life.
Yes. I mean, I think a lot of us grow up with iterations of community, whether that's in your small town or it's on your soccer team or playing sports in some capacity. And I just kind of always had some level of community. College, I was in a sorority. After college, I went right into that fitness era. And I was constantly at a studio interacting with all the people that belonged to whatever studio I was at for a decade. And there were community events, and it was such a core part of my life that when I moved during the pandemic, I had to give up teaching berries. I was also not going to teach while I was pregnant. It just felt a little bit risky when there were so many unknowns at the time. And I went from seeing 500 unique individuals a week for fun as like a hobby job to nobody. And I had taught some online classes, but I was like, okay, I have to do something. So I started, before I even started kozekoze, doing entrepreneurial like meetups. And I'm like, okay, I have to keep doing something. So the second we started kozekoze, we started a super mama support circle. And so many of my friends and community through fitness and otherwise were like, well, of course we'll come hang out and talk about motherhood because we like hanging out with you in the fitness realm. Like, let's do it over here. And we've had different experts come on. We've had biofield tuners. I co-hosted it with a pre and postnatal other fitness instructor who's also certified in the chakras and spirituality. So we did that up until March of this year. And we put it on pause because we were like, we're about to launch. And then we weren't about to launch. So we're hoping to get that back up in action. But the podcast has also been a great way for me to connect with other entrepreneurs, other moms. And honestly, I never saw this coming. But the month we stopped the Super Mama Support Circle, I went viral on TikTok. I have become so in the fertility mommy space on TikTok that I just had a weekend at home and got sick, if you couldn't tell by my voice. And I had 10 people personally message me, are you okay? You haven't posted in 3 days. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, traveling solo with toddler, sick, and going through, all this stuff with IVF. So it's been this incredible place where people are sharing their IVF stats and their IVF journeys with mine. I just went through and that part of, I just never expected to find community on TikTok. And it's so real and it's been so rewarding. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's amazing because I think, especially as a new mom, it can sometimes feel a little bit lonely and isolating. So to be able to have that community, whether it's online or in person, like whatever that may be, I think kind of helps you in the postpartum journey from a mental standpoint too, because you go from being your own person to like your person, but you have a little extension as well. So it's like, I don't even know how to properly put that into words beautifully, but it's almost sometimes like an out of body experience for the first like couple months until you kind of get your groove back.
Oh yeah. I don't think I had a groove for at least 6 months. And because I had moved during the pandemic, I didn't know anybody in my town. And I tried to go to this music class. It just like wasn't a fit. And I remember I was 7.5 months postpartum and I kept going to Target. And one day I was like crying to my husband. I'm like, my life cannot be going to Target. And I went to Target anyway. And I saw this mom with 2 under 2 and I looked at her and I said, we live in New Hampshire. It's cold. It's gray. It's gross. And I'm like, what do you do with your kids in the winter? And she said, pull up your phone right now. And I was like, what? And she's like, type in my gym. And I was like, okay. She's like, I met all my mom friends there. Go to my gym. Like, go tomorrow. She can go to your first class rate, whatever. I was at my gym the next day. And so was my now best friend, whose son was due the same day as my son. And I met 3 other amazing moms. And like, also having that was like such a big deal. And honestly, it became like the fitness studio. Instead of my fitness class, it was my son's gymnastics. And then I found community there, which is also why showing up on TikTok and the podcast, I'm like, there are moms who don't know this is possible. And it is possible. So I have to talk about it.
Well, you obviously manifested the new best friend, just like you manifested the business and everything else in your life. So this has been such a cozy conversation. I could keep talking to you for hours, but for those people that are just in the same stage of life that we're in, or maybe they are desperately looking to start a family and need some resources and some community, where could they find out more?
They can go to kozekoze.com and it's spelled Koze, Koze. I know it's a different spelling, but we had to do it that way. And I love the letter K. It's my husband's last name starts with a K. Also on our Instagram, kozekoze mama, we are hoping to do a couple more IRL activations this fall, which would be great. And then I'm super active on TikTok at kozekoze mama, sharing not only business happenings, but just real life fertility stuff. And the amount of shares I get from other moms, it's therapeutic for all of us. And I'm just so grateful for that outlet.
I'm sure that they're grateful for you as well and for all the resources that you do provide. Well, Garrett, I mentioned this to you before, but I always like to end with a little piece of advice for that woman that is looking to jump into their entrepreneurial journey. What would you tell her?
I have a hot take here because so many people are like, stay in your corner, keep it quiet, work hard, with yourself, head down. 100% disagree. My perspective is tell as many people as you can. Go to coffee with people. Tell your Uber driver your business idea. They'll probably give you really good, honest feedback. Like, I swear I only published my book because I had told so many people, including the internet, that it was happening, that I was like, of course it has to happen. Like, the internet is now my boss. Like, it's happening. Same thing with kozekoze. We changed the name of my podcast from my book name, which is Dare to Move, to kozekoze the day I filed the LLC. We had no product for 11 months. And we were the kozekoze podcast, talking about our business, talking about motherhood, creating that community before we even sold anything. And so my opinion is to share your idea with as many people as possible. Don't get discouraged by people who think it's a dumb idea, because 50% are going to say it's awful and 50% are going to say you're going to be a bajillionaire, go for it. And either way, all that matters is how you feel about it. So you getting really scaffolded and sharing your idea and pitching your idea is great practice for you. And then just get into some books about the universal laws of energy, because it's really enlightening. And I think it's empowering to, empower yourself with your own creative divine power.
Well, I like that hot take personally. I think the moment that you put it out there, it becomes real. And then it also holds you accountable, because I'm personally, if I say I'm going to do something, then I'm going to do it. And if I don't, then that's a failure to me personally. Like, to say I'm going to do something, then not do it. Well, failure, that's a big word. So maybe not failure, but you get the gist here. But then also you mentioned, like, there's going to be some people that are potentially going to have some negative things to say. I think it's important to, like you said, to not listen to those naysayers, because most of the time, those people that do have the negative thoughts and perceptions, you have to really think about, like, have they gone for it? Like, the people that have gone for it are usually the ones that are cheering you on and saying, go for it. You've got this, because they've done it and they know it can happen when you just take that first step. So anyways,
I also believe that the person who maybe doesn't believe in it, it's not their job to believe in it, because it's not their idea. And like, hey, thanks to them for being honest with their opinion, but it's your idea because it's in your quantum field of potential.
Absolutely. And that's where the energy and the spiritual work can really help you to get grounded and to believe in yourself and really block out all the negativity that's out there, because it's going to keep popping up no matter what. And it's just, it takes a strong person to just keep going forward, put your little blinders on and just believe in yourself, because that's really what matters at the end of the day. It's like, do you believe in it? And if you do, run with it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Garrett, thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation.
Appreciate you.